A very good morning to each one of you present here in this room.
Good morning.
I welcome you. Good morning, sir. I welcome you all to Skilling on Saturdays. And today we have with us a special guest, Siji Varghese. And let me introduce her. She's the founder of Leaders in Lipstick, 26 years in corporate space in pharma, banking, insurance, L&D domain. Conducted over 1,000 workshops with over 80,000 participants across globe. She is a 3 times TEDx speaker. Her forte is into leadership trainings, people management skills, and women-centric programs. She's a ICF Certified Life and Master Coach, mentor, as well as volunteer. She has been featured in the book Magical 40 at 40, as well as co-authored a book, The Corporate Woman's Little Diary. And I have shared her TED Talks in the group. Hope some of you have might watched and some are yet to watch. She has spoken on various prestigious platforms like TEDx, IIM Ahmedabad, Ghoda Arts Festival, International Lions Platform, as well as recognized global awards like Karamveer Chakra from United Nations, Global Women in Leadership Awards, GCPIT, International Women Excellence Empowerment Rising Women Award. So that's so much to hear about you. Siji is currently involved as a principal consultant to a couple of organizations measuring their ROI in training and development. Her hobbies include traveling to less known places, tasting local cuisine across the globe, and storytelling. She has also achieved 18 international certifications for ROI methodology, emotional skills assessment process, neuro-linguistic programming, and certified coach. With this brief introduction, I welcome you, Siji, to talk about today's topic on mastering stakeholder success.
Thank you,
Welcome.
Shivani. Thank you for such an elaborate introduction. Good morning, everyone. And
Good morning.
it's it's a privilege to be here and good to see so many of you early morning on a winter morning, especially to wake up and sit in front of, to listen to someone and learn something. And that's really amazing. So kudos to each one of you who've made it here. I know it's quite a tough call, especially on a Saturday morning. I wouldn't dare to do it, but yeah, I'm here because seeing all your enthusiasm on a Saturday morning. So once again, thank you for having me in skilling session on a Saturday. What am I going to be speaking today is about mastering stakeholder success. So we're going to keep it as interactive as possible. So we kind of have some cross learning, some peer learnings, and some interactions which will really enhance and elevate the quality of the session today. So a quick check on everyone. How is your energy at the moment? If 1 is the lowest and 5 is the highest, if I have to check your energy in the room, you can put it on the chat box. I'm a 5 on 5, super 5, because I'm super excited to be here. I just would love to know how is you. So I'm getting all 5. Huh? Amazing. So Shivani, you really have a very N2 cutlet group here, and that's so nice to see.
Yeah.
किसी ने भी पाँच से नीचे नहीं बोला यानी कि everybody is like wow, I am super thrilled.
They were searching for if you have a number above 5.
Okay, so allow me to share my screen.
Yeah, yes.
So please feel free to be on the chat box or unmute yourself and speak up because I would love to hear from every one of you. Okay, so let me just share my screen. Okay, now a very important element. Now we all have this question. who is a stakeholder and what is stakeholder management and how do we engage the stakeholders in our life? So, quick question. Why do you think the session today is important for anyone who is either having your own enterprise or anyone who is working in an organization? I'd love to hear your thoughts and views on this. Yes, Gaurav.
Uh, Sure. Good morning. So first of all, stakeholder, who are stakeholder? Everyone around us whom getting impacted from our actions are stakeholder, including our family members, including our office or wherever we are working. So it is of course about stake. So whether it's an enterprise or it's a employee, everyone has to have the endorsement because our actions impacting them and their action impact our career or our journey. Yeah.
Nice. So that's a very well said one, that whoever I am impacting and whoever impacts me is my stakeholder. Thank you so much, Gaurav. And I have Ran Vijay also who has raised your hand. Ran Vijay, would you like to unmute and speak up?
Yeah, I would just like to add something which, on the top of what Gaurav said. It's like at the end of the day, we are going to collaborate and grow, and it requires a buy-in from them as well because we are impacting our thoughts, decision, everything impact them as well. So, in order to get a buy-in and collaborate and do better, so we need a stakeholder management.
Wow, that was brilliant. When you said very rightly, it's all about collaboration at the end of the day. And to have collaboration and a collaborative mindset, we need to keep on the utmost importance is the stakeholder management. Because if you realize, everything revolves around the stakeholders, the way we relate with them, the way we connect with them, the way we involve and engage them, all of it today matters a lot because at the end of the day, it's about collaboration and it's about relationships that you enjoy at your workplace and at home too. So Gaurav said it's also at home. So yeah, it's at home. You can relate a lot many things back at home too. So I'm going to be taking you through some of the tools that we have to prioritize the stakeholders. So we have multiple stakeholders. What kinds of stakeholders do we have? Like, for example, um, we ideally say there are three types of stakeholders. So what, according to you, would be the categories of these three types of stakeholders? Anybody? Yeah, we have two major ones, which is called as the internal and the external stakeholders, right? But we also have a third group of stakeholders, which we call as project-based stakeholders. So we pick up a lot of projects in the interim, mini projects, mega projects, micro projects, macro projects, and we have stakeholders just exclusively for that project, apart from the ones who are your internal and your external stakeholders. And so if you have to go ahead and classify your internal and external stakeholders, internal would be your employees, the owners, the managers, and the external would be government, suppliers, vendors, shareholders, customers, creditors, society at large. All of these comes in the external stakeholders, right? Are we good with this classification of stakeholders? Right? So anyone who has an impact on us and anyone whom we impact, they all called as the stakeholders. So if I ask you a quick question, what's the difference between a stakeholder and a shareholder? Yes, Ranvijay.
Shareholder is someone who is interested, who has invested something in your idea or your idea or your trust with you. Yeah, he trusts in your business, whatever you are doing. So basically, it's an idea, and he's keen to get some output as well, the tangible outcome. Yeah. So I feel that is what.
Oh, that's a
Shareholder.
shareholder. And so what's the stakeholder? That,
Stakeholder. Okay, so someone who would like to participate in your day in day out activities,
absolutely right.
helping you out.
Thank you. I'm going to give you a virtual chocolate because that's the best I can give you for the right responses, all of you. Uh, So yeah, absolutely right. A shareholder is somebody who has a share and they have a tangible investment and they expect those investments to pay off, right? And a stakeholder is someone who has a stake with the way they participate, they involve, they engage, and there's something tangible and intangible that they receive too. Very good. So I'm going to be taking you through a mapping matrix. Now, it's very important for all of us to remember that we need to categorize and classify all the internal and the external stakeholders into this particular matrix. Now, we have two kinds of, concept in a stakeholder mapping. And this basically will help you to develop relationships with all your stakeholders so that you always have the support of people to achieve the results, right? Now, it's like a grid, and the y-axis represents the power that your stakeholders have over your results, and the x-axis represents the interest that they have in your results. So let's say if on y-axis, there is a low on interest and low on power. Who are these people who comes on this particular quadrant? This is low power and low interest. So these people are who have low power over your results and who have low interest in your results. So can you give me some examples of who could these people be in your particular space? Anybody? Do you need to interact with them a lot for work or less? Yes, Gautam.
Yes, for me, like example, I'm a procurement guy. So the site directors, finance guys, those are the important ones because directly getting impacted. Like technical department for me, for my day in day out of savings and all, they're not getting impacted. So they are just to keep informed, just monitor. Are they the right stakeholder? Are they a brand ambassador or they are enemies? So you don't have to make enemies, just to monitor and keep them very small update. Just monitor.
Nice. I think you already know the stakeholder grid.
Yes,
That's nice. So what kind of interaction will you typically have with them? Very little? You
very
just,
little, less
right?
frequency. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have to spend a lot of time managing these relationships?
No.
Cool. Okay. Gaurav, stay on. In quadrant number 2, we have somebody with high power and low interest. Who's that for you?
Yes, for them, these are the one who, of course, I want them to be with me because they have the power, they can impact, they can make or break. So, of course, because of their power, I need to keep them satisfied. Yeah.
Okay. So who comes in your high power, low interest? Who has a power on your results but very low? Who comes
Yes,
in?
maybe absolutely. So that can be skip level or the senior management guys that whenever they ask something, we should give the information. Of course, not day in, day out.
Okay, cool. So, Gaurav, I hear you that we need to give them the requisite information, keep them in the loop. Now,
Yeah.
have you all heard about the concept of PIE, pie? Have you heard about a concept called pie? Bake your pie in personal branding. I see that you have had
Yes.
personal branding sessions with a lot many speakers. Anybody knows what's pie, PIE in personal branding? Yes, no. Let me just quickly check in the chat box if someone's given a yes or a no. Okay, you say a no. Okay. Now we have three major elements. P stands for performance, I stands for image, and E stands for exposure. Okay. Now, in any organization, we all know performance is of paramount importance. And then comes your image. When performance is coupled with image, which is what kind of image do people have about you? Do they have a positive image about you? Or whatever is your image, people perceive you according to that and give you opportunities according to the image that they have about you. And E stands for exposure. And a very important element in the exposure is it's about how visible your efforts are in your workspace. So many a time, there are many people who feel that performance is important, but not exposure. I will keep working, but what's the point in being there and exposing my efforts? But a very critical point here is, if you see in a gamut of 100, uh, P, that is performance, is just 10%. I, which is image, is 30%. And E, which is exposure, is 60%. So when you couple your performance with your image and your exposure, you create opportunity for yourself that whenever there are new opportunities for you to leverage in, people connect with you because they know that you are there. So when it comes to high power, low interest group, you as an individual, it's very important to realize that they have a high power on you. And there are chances that whenever there is an opportunity, you will be considered, provided you are you are connected with this high power, low interest people as well. It may be your super boss, or it may be someone who has the power and also can give you opportunity because you're high on your exposure. So it's exposure also means it's not about who all you know, but it's important to ask who all knows you as well. So E is a very critical piece in personal branding. And also when you talk about in the stakeholder mapping, the high power, low interest group is where the exposure needs to be on the higher side. So opportunities are available for you. Does that correlate with the way both these things work? Yeah. Okay. So Gaurav, let's go to the next one, which is the quadrant number 3. High power, high interest. Who are these people for you?
Yes, for me, very clearly, they are the my manager, one, and who are the like the project heads, or those are directly getting impacted day in day out kind of thing. So, and they can, again, I will say that they are to manage very very closely. It means every time any changes, I need to keep them updated because they have high interest, high power. So it means their inputs or their decision is very important. Yeah.
Lovely. So a quick question again, Gaurav. How much time do you invest with the person in quadrant number 3 on a daily basis? If I have to just ask you in terms of percentage, what percentage of your day do you invest connecting with the people in the quadrant number 3? High power, high interest.
Okay, for me, because I believe in the way that not to have the kind of getting micromanaged or connecting very, very frequently. So my frequency is based on the changes. If there is any changes comes, any impacts come, then. So frequency could be, yeah, it depends with everyone, but I still feel any changes or any decision, endorsement, all the time we should connect as per that.
Okay, cool. So most of us do this, that, only when there is needed, we keep connected with quadrant number 3. However, in stakeholder mapping, so I see Nidhi saying 40% of your time you invest with quadrant number 3. So ideally, they say anywhere between 55 to 60% of our daily time is something that we invest with quadrant number 3, because that's where all the collaborations, the connections, and the relationship matrices makes more sense. So asking yourself more consciously, am I investing time with the right group of people who really make an impact and who I need to collaborate on a regular basis? It's a good question to check on for yourself. Now, how should your relationship be with this quadrant number 3?
Yeah, very strong.
Yeah. So should you have high trustworthiness? Should they be trusting you? Should you be trusting them? Should there be transparency in communication? Should there be a regular communication?
100% yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust
Now,
and power equation both. Yeah.
awesome. So now a reflection to everyone that with this group of stakeholders, if you have to just evaluate yourself and assess yourself with respect to your relationship, with respect to the transparency in your communication, with respect to the trust quotient, where would you evaluate and assess with these stakeholders? So many a time it so happens that when you sit down to evaluate and assess, you would find yourself investing less with these people. And it's very important to realize that we need to build this because these are they have long-standing implications because these relationships go a long way through, right? So if I have to quickly ask you another question, we all say about building trust, right? Now, in trust, there are 4 components. Anybody in this group knows what are the 4 components that can increase your trustworthiness with the stakeholders? Okay, anybody who would like to share what is the components in trust? Personal connections, very good, Nidhi. So let me be benevolent enough and give you a chocolate for all the ones who have responded. There you go, chocolates in the chat box. Okay, so Gaurav says CRI plus divided by S. So Gaurav knows a lot of concepts and that's good to know. Walk the talk, yes, Shivani. Transparency, yes, Nirupama. Organized planning, good. Hirani also says organized planning. Awesome. So I'm going to give everyone all the responses to have a lovely piece of chocolate early morning. There we go. I'm sure nobody has a diabetic out here. Or you have a stakeholder to report back at home. कैसे खा लिए इतने मीठा? तुम्हारा stakeholder है यहाँ पे घर पे. High power, high impact for eating sugar at early morning. Okay, so uh, so you are right. So let me take through Gaurav's framework. Yes, C plus R plus I. C stands for something very important, is that when you have, let me give you a classic example here. We know there are 4 kinds of people who are at the beach. One, we call them as a beach bum. These are those people who बीच बीच में ना अपना पैर गीला करने के लिए पानी के अंदर चले जाते हैं और फिर वापस आ जाते हैं. Then we have the second group of people, we call them as the snorkelers. ये वो लोग हैं जो थोड़ी डुबकी मारते हैं and they come back seeing some aquatic flora fauna inside the ocean and comes back. The third group, we call them as the scuba divers. Now, these scuba divers are those person who puts in some mask and some resources, and they have a little more depth that they conquer inside the ocean and see some more flora, fauna, and come back. Now, the fourth group is called as the free divers or the deep divers. You know what the deep divers or the free divers do? They're also called as the Gotakhor in Hindi. They are the ones who go to the travel to the depth of the ocean bed and get the treasures too. So my question here is, how much time do you think an average human being can hold their breath in the water? Anybody, just feel free to unmute and speak up. How long can an average human being hold their breath? I have 1 to 2 minutes. Very good.
30 seconds.
30 seconds, 15 seconds. Wow. So the average here is average individual in the water can hold their breath for up to 1 minute. Okay. Now, a Gotakhor or a free diver, do you have any idea how long can they hold their breath? I'll give a rough guess. 15 minutes, Nidhi says. 4 minutes, Ran says. Okay. So, the ideal time for a Gotakhor or a free diver is 11 minutes, 11 seconds. Now, how do you think a free diver is able to hold his breath for so long? 11 minutes, 11 seconds is like, wow. How do you think does he hold his breath for so long? कैसे कर पाते हैं? Practice, absolutely. So, breathing practice. So every single day for them, they keep practicing so much so that if you check the lung size of a deep diver versus a average human being, they have 4 times bigger lung size than us. Now, that's a very interesting take that practice allows you to expand your lung size. Similarly, at the workplace, we have all the 4 kinds of people. We have a beach bum who knows their work just a little bit superficially, ऊपर से. Then we have the second category of people who are the snorkelers, जिसको और थोड़ा जानकारी है about their profile, about their work and so forth. We have the third category, which is the scuba divers, जो थोड़े resources, managerial tools, कोई framework use करके, they are a little more better with their skill set. And then we have the free divers or the subject matter experts who are able to know everything about the market, the rules and regulation, the competitive landscape, the trends in the industry, and a lot many things. And they call as the subject matter experts. So the very first element in trust is that people trust a person who is very competent and capable in their space. Right? So a subject matter expert is someone who commands a lot of credibility and trust. So each one of us who is sitting here, we need to be a subject matter expert. We need to know our subject pretty well so that we are in a space to build that credibility and trust. So then that's your C, that's competence, capability. And then we go to reliability. Reliability is something not which is like ad hoc uh, delivering your promises, but somebody who is consistent in delivering what they have promised. So if you're someone who can honor your commitments, if you're someone who walk the talk, if you're someone who say what you say and you do exactly what you say, then people trust you. That's reliability. And as Nidhi rightly said, transparency, being more connected with your people around, it leads to the next one, which is I, which is also called as professional intimacy. And the last, which is on the denominator, that's called as self-interest. People who are have or high on self-interest, the other person does not trust them because they always feel that you are running the show because you have a motive or a hidden agenda behind it. It's so important. That's why we need to keep our self-interest low and we need to think from the point of view and the benefit of the person on the other side. So that's the C plus R plus I upon SI trustworthiness quotient. Ask yourself on a daily basis when you are creating trust, what is that you are focusing most on? How are you building on your competence? Are you upgrading? How are you updating? Are you upskilling yourself? How do you increase your reliability? Are you able to consistently deliver as you promise? How you develop your intimacy? How much are you taking the efforts to stay connected, keep connected, spending and investing more time to know them a little more better? And finally, whatever you're doing, are you thinking from the point of view of the other person or are you oriented on yourself? Yeah, I know. I haven't used, so Gaurav, this is right. I don't have a trust folder here. So I was just explaining that. Okay. So the last one is your low power, high interest. So Gaurav, who comes here for you?
Okay, for me, it is because they don't have so power to impact me. So just I want to just keep them informed in the FII in the mails. They should be aware what is going on. That's all. No decision making, any kind of strong input from them. Yeah, just informed.
Okay, another question for you, Gaurav.
Mhm.
What if, I mean, if you did not invest any time with this quadrant number 4, is that
Yeah.
okay? Is that okay in the long run?
No, of course not, because they are the one who can impact indirectly. They can feed to the the guys who are the in the high power, high interest guys also, and they can come up later on with some of the input. I need to go back, put my time. So of course I need to keep them informed, time to time. Yes.
Awesome. So we do have that space where they can move into their next level. So very important and critical to understand that this is a very important aspect to remember, especially when you have to talk about paying equal attention to many of the other quadrants so that we can ensure that even when they move up the ladders, we are in a collaborative and in a high relationship space. Okay, so Moving on, let's think about some of the strategies that we can build with each of them. So some questions that you should be asking yourself is, what is that I should be doing to look into each of these quadrants? Who should we, so if it's a high power, low interest, who should we actively consult? Who are the people with great power but with little time to dedicate to the topic? High power, high interest, who are the people that we should actively engage with? And who are the decision makers that can have a biggest impact on the topic? Low power, high interest, who should we invite and maintain a close relationship with? Who are the people very interested in the topic but that have low power? And who should we keep informed, although we will not spend time and energy with excessive communication, low power, and low interest? Okay, so that makes a lot of sense to ask yourself these questions so that you can proactively start working on each one of them. So uh, it's like if you've ever thought that you had a green light for a project only to have it blocked by an unseen decision maker. So one of the best ways to make sure that you get the buying in from all the key players is through stakeholder mapping and analysis. I can see somebody's hand raised here. Yes, Nidhi, you have raised your hand.
Yes. So actually, I have a doubt that there are people uh, for whom we are low power, low interest.
Yeah.
And we want to be at least in their high interest zone. So, is there a way to do that as well?
No, it's again depending on what project you are involved with them. In that project, if you have low power or you may have a high interest, but you have a low power, so they are going to slate you in that particular quadrant only. So there is no way that unless and until you're talking about a personal space. If you're talking about a project, it'll depend on the kind of impact you have on their
But
results.
both goes hand in hand, no?
So if it's a personal space, of course, you may have some proactive strategies to keep working in such a way that you develop high power and high interest. I'm sorry about the people in my backdrop. Uh, Everybody has got school and college, so they're moving around. I'm so sorry about that. Even though I keep telling them, don't bother me while I'm in a session. See, now these are high impact, high interest people in my areas too. Okay. So talking about that, yeah. So talking about that, yes, Nidhi, you're right. Chances, if it's a project, it's a workplace, the chances are that you may not be able to create that because with respect to the project, it may have that kind of an impact. But in a personal space, you could have some proactive strategies to make that high impact, high interest area.
For example, proposed customers.
Okay. Yeah. For
So,
example, proposed customers, go on.
yeah, so it can be possible that you are in a low power, low interest zone for them. But at times there are things which so how do you break that ice and try to be at least in a high power zone for them?
Okay, so when you're talking about connections and breaking the ice, obviously, again, for me, what I look at stakeholder mapping from an organizational perspective, it's mostly project based. In certain project, you may be in a high interest, high impact area. And for certain projects, for those customers, you may be in a low interest, low impact. But when you talk about breaking the ice and reaching out to them or connecting with them, one common thing that I have always observed is deeper, meaningful connections, investing enough time with them, understanding their, uncovering their needs, building that trustworthiness, building that rapport and rapport building, and connecting with them on a more meaningful, deeper level can help you finding that common ground. Finding alignments where you both are needed to be connected uh, on the same space. All of these could be some ways that you can eventually reach out to the high powered, high impact. And that's different. So for you, it's always to be open and mindful that you see an opportunity to make a high impact by giving them an opportunity, and get that opportunity for yourself too. Is that making sense, Nidhi?
A little bit like okay, so one last point.
Is that making sense, Nidhi?
A little bit. But one last point I would like to ask over here. Would you would you recommend having, sorry?
I missed. Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. So
yeah,
what is
go on.
What is recommended?
Go on,
So
Nidhi. We are
is it
hearing
that
you.
first you try to tap on the personal connect aspect of it? Is she there? Yeah. Is it that first you should try to connect on personal aspect, boost the other person's confidence or ego or something, and then talk about the impact which you can create? Or should it be the other way if you are not meeting that person frequently?
So Nidhi, I am sorry I missed you because I think I just got out logged off the system and I got logged in again. Can you repeat the question for me?
All right. So when you have to actually shift your stakeholder zones, what is recommended? First, should you be going ahead with trying to have a personal connect on personal aspects of the other person, or should you try to speak about the work first and then go for the personal aspects of it, or the impact which you can create and then go for the personal aspect of building relationship?
So Shivani, am I the only person getting the lag in Nidhi's voice, or are you able to hear her pretty well? So Shivani,
Yeah,
can you repeat
we
the
can
question on her
hear
behalf?
her, Nidhi. Yeah, Nidhi's. We are audible to Nidhi. Yeah, we can.
Okay, Shivani, can you repeat what I'm unable to figure out what Nidhi said because I felt a lag in her voice. Can you repeat
I
what she
would request Nidhi to put it in the chat box because at my end also the voice is cracking.
Sorry, but Siji's voice is
Okay.
getting cracked.
So Nirupama, I hear you. I am not sure. My network may be a little patchy. Okay, I hear that my internet connection is a little unstable. So sorry about it, and I would love to hear you on the chat, Nidhi. I'm so sorry I could not hear you a couple of times when you reframed the whole sentence again. My apologies. So Nidhi, network is good. Please drop your message in the chat. Thank you. I think I'm having an unstable internet, but I think I'm good now. It was just for a moment that the internet had a shaky patch. Shivani, could you just, I'm feeling very sad to ask Nidhi to reframe it again.
Yeah.
Shivani, could you just summarize the
Yeah,
question
I'm
for me?
typing it.
Yeah. Now your voice is audible, Nidhi. You can speak as well.
Okay, so I was just trying to ask that if you want to move zones from this stakeholder relationship chart, what
Do
should be
you
the first?
think me logging out and logging in will help in?
No,
I
your
think
voice
it's
is
network issue
absolutely
only.
okay, Sisi.
My voice is audible, Shivani?
Yes, now it's all.
Okay, I think she got a lag.
Yeah. So
In the
please,
meanwhile, Shivani, are you okay if I answer to Nidhi? Just
yeah,
input.
please go ahead. Please go
Sure,
ahead.
absolutely. So Nidhi, it is normally the stakeholder, of course, all four quadrants. So normally we do the stakeholder mapping first, that how much is the person's stake, how much to be keep informed, how much they are interested, and what input at what stage we needed. Then it is comes about the trust equation, that yeah, how much we should collaborate, understand from them. But it's always go hand in hand, that of course knowing the person knowing their do don'ts, what impact them. Some people get offended if you don't share on time in the meeting if the things come up. So yeah, based on the, but we should know the people well, our stakeholder, irrespective how much stake they have. Then based on that, you can decide the frequency of connect. Yeah, this is my way.
No, my question was not about the frequency of connect.
Okay.
So let's say you are in an organization and you have to there is something you want to work with the CFO or the CEO. Okay,
Right. Yeah.
so they are very high power, high impact, and high interest people, but you are going to be very low interest, low impact person for them. So, should you talk around some informal things that what you like and what you don't like with them
Got it.
first, or should you be talking straight away that what impact you can create for them,
Okay.
and then meanwhile on doing the project you discuss some informal things?
Very clear. So this is then answer is straight of away frame of reference. Of course, that they should be curious to listen to you. Informal talk also you should talk which they are interested. So frame of reference means that if they are interested for something and you are doing at your end, how they can use that information for bigger perspective. So you have to make your case massive. Yeah. And apology, I think I have to take a pause because CG has joined. Yeah. So rejoined.
No, Gaurav, please go on. It's interesting to hear as well and giving those tips to Nidhi. Please, one needs to get their bit of insights. So please, Gaurav, you can just explain her because I heard that you have an interaction. Go on.
Sure. Thanks, Siji. Yeah. So this is about same one that how the problem you are solving right now, you can show the in a massive way that your CEOs, CFO get interested into that what kind of new idea you are bringing. Yeah. So this is the way it helps. But if you talk about your problem, which is they are not bothered, they are not interested, then of course it will not go in a right manner. Yeah.
Understood. Understood. Thank you so much.
Sure. No worries.
And you're right, Nidhi. It's very important to always show about the value that you can bring to the table. That is very critical, and that's where the entire magic can happen because people need to know. And that's why I talked about the pie, the performance, the image, and the exposure. Okay, Manisha, we have a question here.
Very happy morning, everyone. Ma'am, I have a query in regard to medium organization, not very big organization. And we are facing like problems, for example, the employees who are there on rotational basis, we are seeing that they absent due to genuine reasons. But we are facing it frequently. Okay. And when individually, when we listen to the employees, the problem is genuine. But at times when we calculate everything, the whole work is disturbed because this absentee is increasing. So can you guide on this somewhere? Are you able to understand?
You are on mute. CG is on mute, it seems.
Carry on. I'm getting a call from you.
Is it fine if I can add something to it for Manisha?
Yes, ma'am.
So what happens no at times if you'll try to become more strict with them, they might think that they're of very low value, or they might start demeaning themselves. So what you can do is you'll have to have a much more higher inspiration and make your words and yourself much more inspiring, so that they would want to come to the place. That internal motivation needs to be there, and that might come from maybe some training or some direct communication kind of thing, or frequent motivations. like Saturday sessions or Saturday seminars kind of thing?
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. But in rural area, I'm facing it in many instances that every week 2 or 3 employees they get absented, and sometimes it becomes very difficult to handle the situation, and it affects the whole work. So
Is it about your CA firm or somewhere you are getting your work
No,
from?
it is not about my CFM. It's about a business organization which is there in the rural area, and they are facing it since a long time. So, and the case was there in front of me, so I was unable to help them because every week 2 or 3 employees out of 15 employees getting absented. So he was worried that how to handle it. So I
Maybe
thought of the
a
patient.
policy shift is required here.
Another
Pol-
thing is just dig and connect with them at a personal level and know the reasons of like what is the root cause.
नो एक्चुअली कैसा होता है ना शिवानी जी, जो रूरल एरियाज में ना उन लोगों को बहुत ज्यादा टेंशन नहीं होती, कोई सैलरी वैलरी कटने का भी उनको कोई वो नहीं होता। तो उसमें ना जो बहुत अच्छा कर रहा है उसको अप्रिसिएशन देने से फिर भी हो सकता है फर्क पड़ जाए, दैट
Right.
बेस्ट एम्प्लॉई ऑफ द मंथ काइंड ऑफ। तो दूसरों को बढ़ता हुआ देख करके फिर वो करते हैं, बट अदरवाइज ना उनको बहुत
Right.
ज्यादा फर्क नहीं पड़ता।
Yeah, very true. Thank you.
Sisi, are you
Okay,
there?
yeah, very much there. Thank you so
Okay.
much for that
Just keep
conversation.
your camera off, and I hope your voice will be okay then.
So what about Ranvijay? You have something to ask? Manage the workforce by preparing the backup. So he has something to share. I think one
Yeah,
that
I
is
wanted to
Manisha.
share. Yeah, I wanted to just share on that question. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Now that was really insightful. And I'm going to keep my video off because I think that's the reason the patchy. I mean, it's a long time since I did a webinar because now it's all in person. So I'm not too sure what just went wrong. Okay, so asking certain questions about how do we go about make that high impact. What is that? Where do we usually try to build relationships? What kind of collab do you need from them? What is that expectations of the stakeholders from you? And how can you go around and build good relationships? Because rapport building, preparing your backups, ensuring that there is also a plan B for every space that you work in. It's a very good space to work from, because then you know there are some strategies that you can possibly engage in. One, for having the engagement of the stakeholders, and two, for also ensuring that conflicts uh, do not come through, and there's a resolution even if the conflicts comes in, right? So asking these questions and how you can proactively build your influence and good relationships. Go ahead and do the mapping of the stakeholder in each of the quadrant. You could just sit down with this map where you are talking about high power, high influence. Where you're talking about these 4x4 grid, where you can map each one of them. And depending on how you have mapped your actionables, your communication, your relationship with them, the time that you invest with them, all of that will change. So go ahead, create your own personal stakeholder map. We always call as the personal stakeholder map, right? So as we know, one group is just purely monitor, which is low interest, low power. Where it is the high power, high interest, we talk about managing closely. So ensuring also that you must fully engage with these people and make significant efforts to help deliver their outcomes. It's a very important aspect of it, right? So when you are plotting your own stakeholder map, you need to ask yourself some questions. And on a scale of 1 to 5, how is your visibility and your relationship with each of these people on the quadrant is very, very essential. So what do you know about each of the individual? So one question you ask about for every person in each of those stakeholder quadrant is, do you know any unique fact, any preference, any behaviors that is like breaking the ice, finding a common ground, aligning, managing expectations? All of that comes here. And ask yourself, if you have to assess and evaluate yourself in that space, what where would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest? Check on what are some of the conflicts that is present at the moment with each of this quadrant, and what can you do to resolve them. And also, what specific actions do you need to take in each of the quadrant? So reflect and put in, invest in some time building your own stakeholder map so that you can get better, things done from them, get better with relationships, collaboration, decision making, effective communication, and a lot many things that you can leverage with stakeholder engagement and management. So look at for what are some of the areas that you would need help. Always look out for people in your community who can mentor you, so that you know how you can go ahead and get effective with your stakeholder map, and ask them for tips in your space, because someone who is in your industry, they will be able to guide you even more better. So looking up to a role model or a mentor will help you to have more ideas and strategies to build the collaboration and relationship with them. So that's the personal stakeholder map that I'm talking about, where you need to invest at least some little time at the start of a project, at the end of a project, at the start of a new project, and on a regular basis, so that you are aligned with investing in the right space. So that's it from my side. You need to just ask yourself, as after the assessment, I'm sure you would have placed yourself mentally some numbers to where you see yourself with those stakeholder mapping. What am I doing well, and what is that I can add so that I can get better and elevate my experience with these stakeholders. Okay, so that's it from my end, and I keep the space open for interactions and questions and answers also, whatever comes in from the comment space here. Looking forward for that.
Wonderful, and thank you, Siji, for all the wonderful insights on stakeholder mapping. Floor is open for questions, and whatever questions you have, you can raise your hand, and one by one, go ahead. Yes, Gaurav, please.
Okay. First of all, thanks, Siji. Really great insights on stakeholder management. So one point I want to ask, and this is just related because 2 days back I was in one of the exhibition where I was moderating the session on women empowerment in pharma.
Okay.
So how the leaders get at the leadership position, women can reach. So just because after hearing your profile at start, so just want to know, do you have any inputs? Because in my team, in my mentees are women, so I want them to see the leadership position. Any maybe any inputs you can give, how they can manage their stakeholder well to reach to the leadership position?
Oh, okay. That's a very interesting question. Yes, I do leaders in lipstick. And the main reason that I am associated with leaders in lipstick is that we see in the mid managers, we have around 25% of women representation. But in the senior management, we have just 4%, which means there's a dip of 21%. And we all know what difference it can make if we have more women in the leadership space. Just the other day, I said a very interesting insight. I'm sure when Google Maps were created, Google Maps might have been created by a group of men sitting in the room and saying how the Google Maps should look like, right? And there were probably no women in the room at that point in time. And I'll tell you why. Because Google Map for a lady who's traveling alone at night in 11 p.m. It talks about the shortest route, but it doesn't talk about the safest one. So Google gives you shortest routes, but whether it's safe for a lady to travel at 11 p.m. by herself in that route, it does not reflect that. So sometimes I always say having that inclusive space, having more women representation at the top, especially for giving those kinds of decisions, for giving those kinds of inputs makes a lot of difference. Now, how do we ensure that these women get there? One, we do not have enough role models at the top. So first, the most important endeavor of ours is to create more role models who have been there, done that. So people know, like, for example, women always have this double burden syndrome. We call this because a woman needs to run a home, women needs to take care of kids, and also they need to look at the workspace too. So how do we go about creating a space where they do not get that double burden syndrome? So we need to ask ourselves, even in the workplace, when we are promoting women, many times I've also seen that very unconsciously we have this gender bias where we feel, okay, if I have a male counterpart, this work will get done. But I'm not too sure, especially if the woman is a younger woman who's about to get married, who's about to start a family. So many of those things depends on the mindset of the people in the workplace. So making that change in the mindset of the people goes a long way in ensuring that the support is given. And also women need to understand that you cannot do everything by yourself. That's like superwoman syndrome. So you don't need to do everything by yourself. You need to ask for support. You need to ask for help. You create that ecosystem for yourself where you ensure that you are able to have the balance between moving up into the corporate hierarchy. You don't have to leave it totally and manage both of it. Maybe it takes a hit for some time. Like, let me give you my own example. I was heading the branch in ICICI Bank, and then I was with Birla Sun Life Insurance heading another branch in Mumbai. And finally, I was with Max New York Life, and I was just 35 years of age when I was handling 3 branches in Mumbai. Now, I had 2 small children at that time at my home. And it was very too difficult for me to deal with a very demanding career. And I used to be spending 14 hours at the workplace. And when I come back home, I would see my 2 babies were still asleep. When I go, they're sleeping. When I come back, they're sleeping. And it was painful for me to see that I was not getting enough time as a mother to be with them. I had to take the call to quit my corporate career and start and do something by myself so that I can invest time with my kids. Yes, at that time, my kids were my priority. So I took that step back. But the important thing is, as soon as you feel it's a right time, make the comeback and then work on yourself so much so that you can become a role model for many others. And I actually keep telling them, aspire to inspire before you expire. So even if you have so many of your responsibilities to do, if you are in that space where you feel that you have a goal to achieve for yourself, go ahead full throttle and do it. Ask for help, get the support system. All of these is going to help you move ahead. That's my take on it.
Wonderful. And I can tell, CG, we had the brainstorming of 2.5 hours, and all the summary you have covered in last 2 minutes. It shows that how close you are into this topic and supporting people. And I will say this line I will use for sure. I'm stealing with pride. Aspire to inspire before you expire. So thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, that was the takeaway I took from your TED talk as well.
I saw the smile on several
I
faces
like the
when the
sentence.
line was going on.
When I scroll your
That's fine.
LinkedIn profile, and there's a lot I want to discuss with you. If I start questioning over here, I think it would be 9 over here itself.
Thank you. Thanks for saying that. You've been really kind and it means a lot. Thank you.
Great.
Yeah,
Would
thank
love
you.
to
Maybe
connect.
just in case you want to ask something, please go ahead.
Please do connect, and I am available on LinkedIn, and we can always start the connection from there onwards. Please feel free. I love to
And
do it.
yeah, CG, one more small question till that people raise hand also. So how to manage the
Go
tough
for
stakeholder
Sorry?
when sorry yeah when to how to manage tough stakeholder if your initial discussion didn't go well, so like initial we are unable to create the rapport, and how to take that back, so because sometimes it never come. This is the way I saw. किसी ने perception build कर लिया तो it is become a very difficult. Yeah.
Right. That's a very nice question. Like, if you haven't invested enough time to create that rapport, the trust at the
Yeah.
start, and you have to do it midway, what do? So in my space, what I think is that sometimes people have already formed a perception, and as they say, the first impression is a lasting impression, right? So it stays there for some time, which means that we need to put in double the efforts what we would have ideally done to now create a different perception about us for them. Uh, but nevertheless, it's not a lost cause. You can still keep working on yourself, and people can, when they see the change, they will start forming a different perception about you. So it's about how you portray. I always say, in your personal branding, you would have said, right, your behavior and your communication is of paramount importance. So when you start consciously taking the efforts to communicate more better, to behave more better in a given situation, I'm sure people will sit up and take note. So everybody makes mistake, and it's to err is to be a human, and people do get chances and second chances and third chances too. So I said it's not a lost cause, but putting in the efforts goes a long way in creating that space.
Thank you. Clear.
Yes,
Thank you,
Ranvijay.
Siji.
Yes.
We also have a perception designer and reframer in the room, Pinaki Ray, and I invite if he has something to add to this conversation.
Yes, Ranvijay and Hirani, sir.
Yeah. Sriji, one thing, anyone who come into contact with our corporation or whatever you call it, is a stakeholder, right? Directly or indirectly.
Right.
Now we were talking about high power and high interest and low power, low interest. What about impact? Because the customer, he might not have such much the biggest interest, but he can be very impactful. Even the employees, interest might not be very high, but they are most they could have a most impact, the highest impact on the working of our organization or running of organization. So student we even looked after that also how who are more impactful.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we are talking about power and interest, you are talking about who are the people who can have an impact on your results too.
That
So
that
power
will be
and
good. Like,
power and impact. So when you're making your stakeholder map, see where your employees fall in those 4 quadrants for you, and which are those employees who fall into each of the quadrant, and accordingly connect with them.
employees, as we say, that how I treat my employee, they will treat my client. So they are very important, undoubtedly.
Right. So yeah. So whatever you do directly and indirectly, it does make an impact on people around you.
Yes.
Absolutely rightly said. And you should focus on everyone, because finally that's the crux of your existence as an enterprise, right?
Yes.
All of them are important, but prioritizing who is more important is always a good way to focus your energies in that space. Thank you. Yes, Ranvijay.
Yeah, I have a question to ask. So this is about high power, high interest stakeholder. So let's say I interact with a domain owner, and what is happening from last 1 year is like we have been listening to all the feedback and we are incorporating everything. So exactly after a year, we see like still he is not happy despite of doing everything. The point is he's asked whatever we are doing is we are all good or all tick mark as per contractually. We are in green when we consider in terms of status, which is green, amber, and yellow. But he still keeps us, or he prefers to keep us in amber. So we have been dealing this in very different ways, listening to all his feedback, implementing it, but we do not see the result even after a year. So any thought provoking on this one?
Yeah, that's again a very nice one. So I always use the principle of likability. When I say this, you always see, Vijay, that when we like someone, we go the extra mile to do things for them, right? And when somebody likes us, even if there are little bit of issues, they will still ignore it, right? So when I say principle of likability is something that you create over a period of time. Why? Because like people like people. It's like अगर तू मेरे जैसा है तो मुझे तुम्हारे साथ कनेक्ट करने में मजा आता है, लेकिन तू मेरे से हटके है तो मेरे को तुम्हारा हर चीज से प्रॉब्लम आता है. So creating that rapport over and over again. Now, for example, especially with this client that you have right now, See if you can meet him offline, have more deeper, meaningful conversations, understand him a little more. Where is that disappointment coming from for him? What is that you need to align and address in his expectation? Know him a little more, create that rapport, and I'm sure you eventually, both of you will come to a space where he will come 2 steps ahead and you will come 2 steps ahead to find a mutual ground where both of you are in a win-win space and both of you are in a happy state of mind. So I feel that go out, go connect with the client on a more personal note, meet him, spend some time and understand a little more about that. And I think you're sorted to go. So this is what I do when I find that there is some client who is not aligned with me. I take the efforts to go and meet them and know them a little more. And then once you know them, it becomes easier for you to understand where are they coming from and what's their pain area and how can I align and give them the best that I have. Does this help, Raj?
Yes, thank you, Siji. Yeah, I will implement a couple of points. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, different
Thank you
insight.
so
Yeah.
much.
Yep.
Any further questions from anyone?
And thank you, Rajesh, for sharing that for Sri Krishna. So Sri Krishna had a question. I was just about to type and I saw Rajesh has put in all the pointers already. Thank you.
Wonderful. And thank you, Suzy, for the wonderful time we spent together and all the insights that you bring on stakeholder management.
Thank you. It's been
As
a
there
pleasure
are,
to be here amongst all those ones who are very keen on learning and understanding, and for all the insights that you brought and the value add that you brought here too. Thank you so much. Really made my day. Thanks once again. Yes, Gaurav
yeah,
has a question and Vijay has a question or a statement. I don't know.
Yes. So one point. So how to create the strong visibility? Because there was a time when hard work, of course, hard work no substitute, but how to be more visible, creating more influence. Maybe I know that by creating a lot of success stories, that people become curious. Your senior leadership becomes curious to know you and to take you to the next level. So any insights from your side?
Yeah. So proactively involving yourself in some engagements or some events where people where you're exposed, right?
Got
That's very important. Like, so people see you through. So because you proactively invested your time there, people see through, okay, there is somebody who's doing that. And slowly by slowly, the exposure comes in. One another thing I always say is having your digital footprints, right? Uh, Being there because people today always want to check who is Gaurav Sharma. So the first thing that they do is Google, and then they see a lot of stuff and they make a perception about you, right? So
Yeah.
what is the post that you post? What kinds of comments do you give in? What post do you like? In all of your digital footprint does create or establish your competence and credibility as well. So when there is another opportunity, people will always remember, oh, okay, that's Gaurav, because he's been there. And if you're missing in action or if you're missing in presence, people forget, right? So you have to be on the top of their mind space.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
So Ran says, I've implemented this in the past and traveled to a leadership role. This works. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks for sharing that, Ran Richard.
so that is where our personal brand helps to place ourselves intentionally in the minds of others.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Yeah.
the percentage, if you see, 60% is your exposure, 10% is your performance, and 30% is your image. Again, there's a very funny aspect, okay? There are some people who have internal growth is less, but their external projection is very high. Now, such people are called as loud. अंदर कुछ नहीं है, लेकिन बाहर दिखावा ज्यादा है. They are considered to be loud people. So people can see through that. And then there is one group of people like the Abdul Kalam Azad types who has internal content quite high, but their external projection is very subdued. So they're called as mild people. So if you want to create your presence, you have to be someone who has high internal growth and high external projection too. And that's when people sit up and take note. Oh, you are there too. When an opportunity comes, then you are the first person that they can think about to get you on board.
So true. Thank you all for joining in today and making this session successful. Let's meet next Saturday. Thank you,
Can
Siji.
I ask something?
Yes, Manisha.
Ma'am, sometimes it is observed that there are three levels of category of persons working in an organization, and sometimes the lowest level person gives an idea to the head of that group,
Right.
and later it is later the that group person comes to know that his idea was used, but the credit goes to somebody else, like the head. So I think you understood. In this case, anything you can help with your guidance.
So one thing that I've always seen is that if a leader would not be a great leader if he takes the credit for his subordinates' work, right? Giving the due credit is important because in the long term, people will know that you have stolen or taken my credit off, right? So very important thing is if it's your credit that if your leader has picked up, it's always good to ask, confront, right? Or if you are somebody who has taken the credit for someone else's work, ensure that it may be a short, quick win, but in the long run, this doesn't really work. So taking a credit, I know there are many people who do that because everybody wants to have a standing in the organization. So good points. People do take credit, I know, but it's a matter of ethic. It's a matter of your you could say the integrity aspect and the quality of a leader that you have, right? So there is this much only that you can do, but if you know somebody else has taken your credit, you can always confront that person and check on them. Have a more open adult to adult conversation saying that I would have loved if you would have given me my due credit instead of taking that and pitching as if it's your own idea. You can always be transparent and open in your communication. Have a more assertive adult to adult conversation. Please don't shy away from doing that. You can definitely confront your leader. Because the next time he should not do that to you again.
Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Manisha. Thank you, Siji.
Thank you so much.
I hope no more questions with the audience. Let's close for the day.
Yes, thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you.
everybody.
Catch up, everyone.